Wow. Are we on? Good evening, everyone. So the attack on Iran is underway, and the U.S. military is calling it Operation Epic Fury. Yeah, not to be confused with Epic Furry, which is the operation to remove the hair from Rashida Tlaib's face. I said don't go in. The president vowed to step up strikes on Iran and warned the big one is coming, which is the same thing Jerry Nadler yells as a warning in the men's room after his 2-burrito lunch. Don't get into that blast zone. The Ayatollah is dead, of course. And following that news, jubilant crowds pulled down a statue of the deposed leader. But don't worry, it was returned to its rightful owners at Columbia University. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Meanwhile, IDF missiles struck a location where Tehran's senior clerics met to elect a new Ayatollah. The remaining leaders are now questioning their choice of venue. In his obituary, the Washington Post described the Ayatollah as a man with a bushy white beard and easy smile. It reminds us of the time they described one German leader as a sassy painter. Sassy. Too soon? In other news, during a deposition, House leaders asked Bill Clinton why he was photographed in a hot tub with a bikini-clad woman. He said it was because there was a line to get in on the sex swing. It's like a trampoline in the neighborhood, you know, one family has it. As for his wife, during her deposition, an angry Hillary raised her fist and slammed the table. The last time Hillary slammed her fist on a table that hard, Monica ran out from under it. You guys. And finally, after he completed his deposition, Bill said the Epstein victims deserved healing. He even offered them a free back rub at Bubba's Magic Fingers massage parlor. He's got a side hustle. All right. For decades, what did you always hear? Politicos telling us we need to stop kicking the can down the road. And then they kick the can down the road. Just once, I'd like someone to ask, how long is this damn road? It's the real strategy in D.C., not to solve problems, not to secure success. No, it's don't embarrass yourself. Don't ruffle any feathers. So what's changed? Trump, the first president in ages to say, I don't care. I don't kick cans, I crush them. So the playboy businessman who doesn't have 30 years of so-called Beltway experience and is so naive about how the world works, suddenly he makes things happen, and it's not complicated. Trump has a track record of being decisive, accountable to results, not ritual, action, not process. His catchphrase from The Apprentice was, "You're fired," not, "Let's regroup in Davos and don't forget to expense the whores." Look at the border crisis. He gets into office and the border snapped shut like women's legs when Kilmeade wears a tank top. In Venezuela, that can wasn't just crushed, it was flattened. And when it was, 80 million barrels of oil squirted right into America's lap. Iran was the can-kicking Olympics full of cocktail party diplomacy that involved pallets of cash, weakness disguised as patience. But Trump, he refuses to postpone every tough conversation in order to chase the polls. Other politicians, they're famous for putting their proverbial finger in the air to see which way the political winds are blowing. The only time Trump has put his finger in the air was to flip the bird and mouth F you to a heckler. Real leaders don't say, hold off until Admiral Levine changes his pantyhose. And Trump's decisiveness has freed us from a prison of two ideas, the notion that the U.S. must either be entrenched in decade-long wars or not involved at all. That's like saying you can either watch Jesse Watters' Primetime or record it for later. Both are stupid ideas. Trump says he's not going to start wars, he's going to end them. And Iran has been waging war for decades against us and its own people. And yes, Trump promised no new wars. It's a great line, which he adhered to in his first term, so he gained our trust. He's not a bomb-dropping fanatic like the other guy. So when he makes an exception, maybe hear him out, especially since he's been harping on Iran for decades. He wants to get rid of the bad guys in what he calls a strike. Surgical, high probability of success, limited exposure, maximum impact. What Kamala used to call the opposite of everything I represent. But maybe Trump should try saying, look, I know what I said before, but you got to trust me on this, and here's why. Trump has built a massive bank of trust, so he should use it. Because when you leave it to the other voices, you get a whiff of WMD. Fact is, some people voted for no more never-ending wars, and they have a right to be miffed. But knowing this now, would they really have voted for Kamala instead? Then there are those who voted for the whole Trump package, and you roll with his instincts. The more decisive he is, the better he is. And to some, this Iran action looks like nation building, but for others, the nation's already there. It was just tied down like Gulliver. And after 45 years, Trump said, let's cut those ropes. So how long will this bold move last? The truth is, nobody knows. We do know that the old way didn't help anyone, unless he wanted to sell used Jeeps in Kabul. You know, they used to call Trump inexperienced because experience in D.C. meant great at kicking cans. Well, he's not kicking cans, he's kicking ass, and that's something we haven't seen in ages. Welcome, tonight's guest. He doesn't do encores because no one ever asked. Comedian Dave Landau. Like any good Benz, he costs a fortune to get service. Former State Department official and executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, Mike Benz. She loves free expression, which is why we don't pay her. New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor, Kat Tiff. And he makes his older female fans feel like they're 80 again. Former NWA world champion, host of Planet Tyrus podcast, Tyrus. Dave, not many people know this, but you are a foreign policy expert, aren't you?
That's correct.
Yeah, you do a lot of research on your own time.
Ton.
Yeah. So what's your take on this?
Okay, on the entire thing?
Yes.
Oh.
And in 5 words.
In 5 words.
No.
I'll be honest, I was surprised that they took out Iran's Navy.
Yeah.
I didn't know, or at least naval ships. I didn't see them as water people. I would assume, I would think that it would be hard to swim in drapes.
They don't use flying carpets anymore.
Oh, they don't?
No, they don't.
I go by all stereotypes.
Yes, you do. Why did they take out Ahmadinejad? Isn't that weird? It was like an afterthought. It was like, oh yeah, they also killed Ahmadinejad. He was president like 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and also, what I really don't get is they took down the statue of the guy.
Yeah.
But every supreme leader looks like him.
Yeah.
Why bother? You just have to make a new one that's going to look exactly the same.
That's true.
He doesn't even change hats.
Yeah, the Ayatollahs are they're fungible.
They are.
They're fungible. Mr. Benz. All right. I am a little bit like cautiously optimistic. I place all my hope on the fact that Trump gets bored really easily, so he never gets involved in something that he can't quickly get out of. Is that a fair summation?
I hope that's the case. You're talking about a nation of 90 million people. There's 80 million Shiite Muslims. There's in that country. There's a 250 million around the world. This is going to have long-term implications, and there will be bright, shiny objects emanating from this that will force the president's attention. Whether he gets bored of it or not, it will. I think the fallout from this will be something we'll be living with for a long time.
Really, you're not bullish on this move.
I think that the initial forays into every major military action come with the kind of Team America, World Police, America, F yeah kind of thing. Right. This was our bombs over Baghdad. This was Afghanistan. This was Iraq. In this case, I think everyone is wowed right now over the overwhelming firepower and the incredible capability of our brave men and women. There even in the best case scenario, there's going to have to be some form of nation building, and that is going to be a decades-long process.
It's interesting, though. I guess I look at Trump differently than I do these previous things in the past. And maybe I'm being too generous, but I look at like what he did to the nukes, what he did to Maduro, Soleimani. He always seems like he's very selfish about his time, about our money and our blood and treasure. He doesn't like. You think he hasn't weighed this fully through?
I think this is a surprising action because it is the opposite of what has been done in the past. In 2018 with Syria, when there was the allegations of sarin gas attacks, there were military strikes that were done. It was his first time doing that. He was very deeply applauded by the media, but they were targeted, limited. When we took out Soleimani, that was a single strike against one military leader. When the Fordo strikes happened, they were targeted, limited. We're now up to over 2,000 sites that have been struck, as well as not just the Ayatollah, but the entire leadership, over 50 of the top government, military, financial, even judges. It is going to be difficult to see a way that does not involve hundreds of thousands of casualties, which is unlike the kind of maneuvers we've seen from Trump's restraint in the past.
Yeah, I heard he even took out the band Flock of Seagulls. Because of the song.
Iran
so
Yeah.
far away.
so far, Iran so far away.
Yeah. Never liked that song either. All right, Kat. It was a terrible joke, but Mike is so serious, and I just grilled him for 5 minutes. I needed to get some levity in there, and it's you, Kat. It's you all over. He said no new war, no new forever wars. Did he betray the people?
Look, I agree with everything that Mike said. For me, it's impossible to tell, but you do know based on our involvement in this region in the past that things have kind of dragged on and on and on. And I am concerned about the exact same thing happening here. I'm married to somebody who fought in Afghanistan.
Me too.
And, well,
I'm joking.
I know, but it honestly was a very difficult thing for me to see what he went through when Afghanistan worked out the way that it did. I mean, he lost classmates there, he lost friends there, spoken to a lot of veterans who, went through the same thing. And even many of the ones who came back, they never come back the same. And Trump himself said that it is a possibility that we took out a monster, but he could be replaced with someone who is bad also, right? So that is definitely my concern. I hope that I'm wrong. Maybe this will be the first time that this works, and we will have a democratic government in Iran in a month, or whatever people are cheering or hoping for. There's nothing in history that is showing me that that would be the case. I would love to be wrong. But it's not because I don't support the military or love my country. It's because I love the military so much, and I love my country so much. And points for honesty for Trump saying that, but those are the exact concerns that I have.
Tyrus.
Yo.
How was the 5 today?
Quieter, apparently. Look, when it comes to this situation, one thing I would like to point out, and I look at this situation with Iran as a mirror of the future for America. What we've seen in the last 4 years where there was this big attack on our freedoms, how we speak, and a huge attack on the Second Amendment. Everybody wanted to get rid of guns, guns, guns. The biggest problem that Iran is having when they have all these civilians who are tired of this, but what they did in their country is they made sure none of the civilians ever had rifles, couldn't defend themselves. So even if you had 50 of the remaining, or let's say 50,000 troops left, that's more than enough to control an entire population of people. So I think when you look at what other countries go through, be thankful we live in the place that we live, that we have in a Second Amendment, that we can put a militia together if the government pulled this type of that we're seeing over there. The other thing is that I'm a big guy on stats and patterns. President Trump, I think, has earned the right. His resume speaks that he's a peace-first president. We've seen it over and over again. We've seen it with what he has been trying to do with Russia and Ukraine. But here's the thing. I think he has put a team together that, although personally none of them actually ever get along, they're all about doing the job. Rubio, everyone else had an issue with Trump about doing the job. And I think we need to give them the grace period to do the job. We can start, I'll be the first one to throw criticism if it goes sideways, but allow him to do the job. And we're going to understand information is going to be tough because the mainstream media, doesn't matter what he does, they're going to be anti-everything. The difference in this time, I feel more confident than the situations in Afghanistan, was Trump's actions have called other Middle Eastern countries, which usually don't, all of a sudden Saudi Arabia's thinking about getting involved, and maybe they will, and other countries are starting to be like, no, enough of this. And that, to me, is very positive. Again, I'm not going to pretend to high chair quarterback military, but I would, with what we saw what happened in Venezuela, what we're happening in Iran, what we're seeing happening, China's paying attention. I think this is a long thing where I think there will be a chance for him to leave because he'll be able to leave it in the hands of the other Middle Eastern countries who are now invested and seem to be involved. And that's the big difference between before, I think.
All right.
This has got to be. I was just going to say quickly, you know who this has got to be super weird for? Liz Cheney.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Like, her family could only dream of this, and it was done by the guy she hates the most.
Exactly.
Well, that's what John Bolton said.
Yeah.
John Bolton said his only regret is that he wasn't able to persuade Trump to do that while he was the national security advisor.
What a time.
And Bill Kristol's lobbying against this.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, Crystal's gone nuts. I mean, but yeah, I think if you want Trump to do something, you tell them that nobody's been able to do it before. I think Iran was that thing that was pulsing. It's like a big giant boil on your arm. Why don't you lance it? And he goes, I'll lance it. And he just, and it was like, wow, that was easy. But the problem is there could be another boil underneath. You don't like my boil analogy.
I don't mind it. I was just
You
picturing
could go with
too
a
hard.
hydrant, too, like another head just keeps coming up and he cuts him off, which is less disgusting
Well, it's
for
like
our crowd.
if someone tells you no one's ever solved this Rubik's Cube, and you're like, well, have you tried putting a Patriot missile to blow it up?
Yes. That's a great idea.
Well,
See?
it's being tried as we speak.
Yeah, all right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.